Buddhang Dhammang Sangham Namasami. The process that we're working with is the Eightfold Path, developing this noble Eightfold Path, not just every day, maybe we could say in every moment of every day, in every act of every day, in every breath. So we can notice and be aware of the arising and ceasing of the Four Noble Truths. Where do these Noble Truths arise? They arise in consciousness within us. So in every breath, every in-breath, and every out-breath, if we're paying attention, if we're present, if we're conscious and alert and attentive to our life, giving it breadth, just like when you take a match and light a candle, and the match strikes the box, the striking element, and it lights up, and then you put the flame to the candle, to the wick of the candle, then we have light. And the wick continues to burn because there's wax under it. And in the same way, when we apply mindfulness to the breath, if there's an object to which mindfulness can be applied, and we touch that object, we have contact with that object, and we sharply know the object, then we see it and know it clearly. And this is where sati sampajanya arises. It's clear comprehension of the object of our awareness. And then when awareness arises in the mind and we have wisdom, there's the possibility for us to have deep insight into the truth of what we are. And it's a similar process that takes place. So when we're watching the breath, we need to be mindful. If mindfulness is not present and not attending to what we're experiencing, with that kind of present moment awareness, then we're not meditating, we're just sitting, not being attentive, not being present for our life. So we're not here to sit idly and just see the breath coming and going in a dream state, but to be mindful of our experience. That mindfulness has the power to raise wisdom within the mind. It's a precondition for wisdom. Without this quality of mindfulness, of sati, in the mind, if we're just sitting and dreaming and the breath is coming and going, there's no connection. When there's no connection, there's no light. When there's no light in the mind, there's no illumination. So for that kind of illumination to happen, we have to keep penetrating deeply into our experience, diving into the breath. It's a kind of dying into the breath, because we do that with an emptiness, without layering over our attention with a sense of a self and bringing our suffering with us. But we're trying to go into the present moment empty, just pure mindfulness, pure awareness. Then there's a possibility for wisdom to arise. So we know the breath, but we also have to know it with that purity of mindfulness, which we can also call right mindfulness. It's backed up by our virtue, which is one of the conditions that is needed. And our good actions have to be at quite a high level to create these right conditions for sati sampajanya to be nurtured. so that we can do this practice, understand the value of it, make the time in our lives for it, and be willing to undergo this amount of practice, going towards silence, taking food when we need it, practicing meditation, following some kind of discipline, not just running with the world and with worldly activities that fill up our life. And when we go on retreat, these are times for a more special practice, more intensive practice. People might wonder what on earth we're doing when we're on retreat. No computers, no videos. You don't eat much, you don't talk. You sit with a group of strangers. But these are conditions that help to intensify our experience of the present moment and to give a powerful opportunity for conditions to ripen for insight. And so we have to be careful how we use these opportunities and not take them for granted. Also, not to waste our life and think that we have to go somewhere else to practice. We could go on a retreat and have some nice experience and then come back and live in a way that doesn't enable us to continue that being alive and aware for the present moment, day in and day out, so that we can watch how we do things, how much mindfulness we can bring to our activities, to watch the mind states, our intentions, our fulfillment of intentions, our actions and their results, observing how we work, how we live, how we sleep, how we take care of our homes, our places of work, our family, ourselves, how we pick things up, what we eat, what we experience in the body. We watch the physical movements of the body, like when we're doing walking meditation, or we're seeing the way the body sits. We feel the pressure of the body sitting in the chair. We can't really develop wisdom by watching other people's experience. But one of the most powerful things that we can observe is sitting with and watching someone die. That's a very, very special experience. If you ever able to have that opportunity. I had that opportunity when my mother died, bless her. She had Alzheimer's, and while she was dying, I was sitting with her for days on end. I chanted day in and day out all night for one whole night right before her death. And the most amazing thing that I experienced after many years of her not even knowing who I was, suddenly, while she was in a coma, she woke up and looked at me with full cognition. It seemed as if her Alzheimer's disappeared. It was unbelievable. There she was, knowing me totally, and so radiant. What was that came through? What in her suddenly pierced through and shattered this sickness of the brain so that she could look at me with so much love and understanding and joy? It was profound. So to be able to open ourselves to this kind of experience with receptivity, we have to be willing to sit with our own dying too. One kind of insight we get is sitting with other people's dying. But really we have to learn about death through our own experience and to see how it changes us from the inside. We actually sit with our experience day in and day out as we practice mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of forms, of feelings, of what we perceive, of what we know, of what touches us, what our sense doors take in and give out, what goes into the mind and what comes out from the mouth and from our activities. We have to shatter our illusion of our suffering and our dependency. We have to shatter our addiction and our darkness, our loss, our ego, and all the disguises that the ego keeps throwing up at us. We have to sit through all that rubbish and slowly empty it, sweep it away so that we can have a taste of that transcendent reality that is endlessly waiting for us to connect to it. And we do this by penetrating through the present moment with an acute, sharp, mindful awareness and wise knowing. Watching the flow of life, the process of the mind, processes of the body. And we remember the foundations of our mindfulness practice. And also the 5 powers that work together in this process. The faith and the energy that work together with mindfulness, which is like the glue that holds these together with our application of mental awareness and focus and our wisdom, our wise seeing all of this, all of these factors working together, these faculties that each of us has. We've been given these gifts of being a human being, and we can develop these skills. We have to trust this process totally, this Eightfold Noble Path. If we don't trust it, we'll be too scared. And we have to be close enough to the breath, to our present moment experience, not to be frightened by what might come up. So to be able to hold fear at bay, not superficially just to get a little bit of calm or a little bit of happiness, but to go deeply so that we can experience unassailable peace. It's much more than the kind of peace that you might feel when you sit and watch a sunset, and then when it's finished, it's not really liberating. But we're here to free the mind from our attachment. We have to give up control, so we let go of the ego totally. And that's the highest form of renunciation. It demands from us a kind of present moment awareness that is really relentless and very patient. We can't just do this with wanting insight and chasing after insight with a kind of arrogance. But we have to enter into this process with humility and a reverence. This is a priceless undertaking. It's sitting in front of the altar of the sublime, of the highest principle, the purest quality that we can develop, this pure presence. We have to live a virtuous life and keep precepts to a high level with virtuous intention so that we're not harming ourselves or anyone intentionally. And if we do, we practice forgiveness. We live a wholesome life, and we do this wholesome practice to go deeper, to purify the mind, and trust the process of this purification, trusting refuge, trust in our ability to awaken to the truth. We trust the truth itself, that there can be a knowledge of that within us, an understanding of that. And sometimes we have to experience pain, be so patient to study the mind and develop enough balance and calm so that the mind can be stable like a mountain. We can stay with the breath and bear witness to our experience in a deeper, more insightful, piercing way. No longer preoccupied with the superficial aspects of life, like even pains in the body can be distracting. So we learn to sit through some of these distractions, not to be lost in thoughts, in the hindrances of worry, anxiety, fear, tension, boredom, wanting, greed, restlessness, but holding the body up straight so that our natural energy can flow and the mind can be very bright and attentive like a lamp that's using all its wattage. If the lamp isn't bright enough, the inner lamp, then we can't see clearly what's arising in front of us. We can't see the breath and know this breath from beginning to end. And we need a certain stamina, that's energy, the virya. It's not just a physical energy, it's also an energy of the heart. And so this energy is buoyed by our faith in the practice, that there is a practice and something to practice for. We're not just sitting here idly, but we know that there is a treasure to uncover, and it lies in the heart. So we enter into this process with that kind of faith, and then we apply our best energy towards realizing it. It's ardent. We bring our love to it because it's so meaningful. It's a spiritual work. And then the mind becomes very, very stable and calm, collected. Our attention converges in the present moment instead of being split and fragmented and scattered in all directions, and a certain stability and steadiness of mind, a stillness, an inner samadhi stabilizes, and it becomes like ballast that holds us into the ocean of the moment. It's powerful, and we can't easily be knocked over. We become like a tall, stable, ancient tree. Even if a big wind comes along, it will not knock us over. With that kind of stability and clarity of mind, then we start to have this inner vision that is bright, and it's quite pure. It begins to know the truth of the present moment. We've emptied out a lot of rubbish. And when the mind becomes more calm, more silent, more still, more open to the present, pure present moment, without being carried away by any other influxes or external pulls, then the truth rushes in. It has to. Into that empty space, the truth manifests. What else? It's a miraculous thing. That's why it's so important for us to nourish our attentiveness, a continuous attention. And this is the most wholesome action that we can engage in, with the most beautiful result. If we pursue this to its fruition, then we can free ourselves from suffering forever. But we have to do this with humility, a tremendous humility. We have to be willing to go through the gate, so to speak. No matter what kind of dragons we believe are standing in front of us or guarding that gate. We have to go into this process of minding the breath, of being mindful of breathing, mindful of feeling, mindful of thoughts and letting them go, renouncing whatever comes into the mind and letting it go, so that there's an emptiness there, a purity. And we're fully aware, fully cognizant of this moment exactly as it arises, without any filter, without any delusion, without any deceit. We're truly honest and present. Our integrity is complete. And we also have to do this with tremendous compassion for ourselves, forgiveness for ourselves. Even if we miss a breath, we bring our attention back. There's no blaming or evaluating. There's just devoting ourselves to the process. And the next breath and the next attentive moment, building a certain vigilance and a certain dedication to this alone. Constantly, continuously present. And this is a chance to really experience a freedom. We don't have to be perfect. We just have to be as we are, exactly as we are, and even letting go any notion, any idea of what we are. Letting go the past, letting go the future, emptying out the rubbish. Yes, we die to the world outside. There is nothing outside, there is nothing inside. There is empty, pure, present moment awareness. So we die to our restlessness, we die to our weariness, we die to our self-pity or our sense of a self. We die to our desire. We die to our depression. To any of our thoughts, we put it all away because the present moment, we're conscious of it and we turn ourselves inward to that pure consciousness. We die to our fear. And we let self-surrender be complete. In this way, there's such a presence, a wise presence, a mindful presence, calm and soft, forgiving and compassionate. And this is where loving kindness begins to mature. It's a feeling of very pure lovingness, compassion, and an equanimity. The four Brahmaviharas is joy that pervades the space in the heart. And the breathing is just inward, outward knowing of that experience. We may not even be aware of the breath, just like a swan diving into a lake and then rising up for the next breath. This can be likened, if you will, to the entering of the stream. Like a sotapanna who enters the stream is one that first tastes that liberation and then is forever protected from so much suffering, because that taste wipes out a lot of delusion that will never entrap us again. And for that to happen, we have to give ourselves to this process, to empty ourselves out, so that we really know that. we enter in a decisive way, with a boundless resolve, limitlessly, no longer pulled in any direction, to achieve our purest inner possibility. To quote Rilke, this is a sacrifice that we do for the practice with boundless resolve. It's the perfection of adhitthana, which is that energy of determining, yes, our resolution that yes, I can do this. This shall be done. This will be done. This is possible. For this little being that we might think, no, yes, we just adhitthana ourselves. Yes, we can do it. Nothing can stop us. There is no obstacle except the thinking mind, and we've left that. No more future, no more past, no more thoughts of this, that, and the other, no more self-thought, but just pure awareness to realize our highest inner possibility, our true potential. And we want this to be easy. It might be, but it's probably not, because our lives are pretty complex. We want it to be quick, but it might not be. We don't want any obstacles. But if you find a path without any obstacles, it probably doesn't lead anywhere. So whatever obstacles appear in front of us and call themselves obstacles, we just look at them and let them go. Rather than saying this is an obstacle, we know them for what they are. It's just a moment. It's a visual. It's a sound. It's a smell. It's a taste. It's a feeling. It's a thought. Let it go. Sweep it aside and keep present moment awareness. Stay with that. Stay with just the breath, or just being present, just knowing this moment, and going inward to that pure awareness of present moment. Being, just our being is here now. That's all. There is nothing else. There's no life, no death. There's just this. There's no future. But this is everything. And knowing that will take us to the boundlessness that we can know, to the transcendence that we can experience. There's a beautiful saying by Hazrat Inayat Khan, the Sufi poet. It is not a solid piece of wood that makes a flute. It is the empty reed. So, if you want to be like a flute, making these sublime, magnificent sounds, we have to be like an empty reed. We study the heart. We dive into the breath. And when we dive into the breath, that's diving into our own heart. Because all that the breath reveals is what we are. And to know the heart is to know that purity, that love, that unconditional quality. It's not conditioned by anything of the world. Moment by moment, we clear our temple out. We lighten the load. And we become clear, like a beautiful instrument through which the sound of holiness can be heard. It can be heard. We have to listen and witness. Witnessing. Not being a witness, but just witnessing and listening. We are no one there, but just that knowing of what is present. And then there is the emptiness that is so vast, it's pure space. There is infinity in that. That is the ability to hear the sound of holiness, or know that holiness is what we are. That's pure love. This could take a long time. It's worth being patient for that, to keep practicing for that. There's nowhere to go. There's nothing to become. It's more like an undoing, letting out, unraveling. There isn't really anything like a retreat. A retreat is just like a pause, like having a sip of water so that we can go back into the desert of the world where our real practice takes place. Meeting all those obstacles with an emptiness and a boundlessness of heart that is unconditionally loving, unconditionally kind, unconditionally compassionate, unconditionally joyful. How can we do that? To realize that evenness of mind. We have to trust. As Viktor Frankl said so beautifully, what is to give light must endure burning.